Coming up, we're talking about Pneuma Solutions and their products. Mike Calvo returns, and a warning, it gets political.
You're listening to Double Time, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Stephen Scott and Shaun Priest.
Now, you might remember Shaun Priest, Happy New Week, by the way. You might remember that we had Mike Calvo on a while back talking to us all about the Humane AI pin when it first came out. He was not a happy bunny, it is fair to say.
He was right.
He was right. He was absolutely right. And he's back with us today to talk more about not Humane, you'll be pleased to hear, but let's be honest, the world around us, the challenges we face as blind people, and what we as blind people can do about it. Mike Calvo, welcome back to Double Tap.
I promise I'll be good.
Brace yourselves. I'm worried.
I know. Mike's here. Everyone hide under the table. No, listen, Mike, I'm so glad to have you back on the show, because we actually said, I don't even know how far or long ago this was, but we had said, look, let's get back together and talk about you and the company and the products and all the rest of it. And we kind of we never managed to make it happen, did we? We never managed to make it happen, but finally we have done it. And, you know, I've got to say, you're a great guy for many, many reasons. But one particular reason is because you're going to be supporting us here at Double Tap. You're taking on some sponsorship, and that means a lot to us because it allows us to do what we want to do, which is to do the show and continue to do the show the way we do it, but also make it free for the audience. You know, we don't want people to pay for this. I don't even know if they would if we offered them the chance anyway.
Good point.
Yeah. So, you know, we don't have to worry about that today, which is fantastic. But I just want to say a huge thank you to you and Pneuma Solutions and all the wonderful team you've got for your support of Double Tap. That means a lot. So welcome back to the show, but also thank you for being a real treasured supporter of the show.
You know, as the program has progressed, I have made it a part of my daily listening, and I am, you know, honored to be a sponsor of this product. And, you know, I guess we refer to podcasts as product these days.
Yeah, I suppose we do. Yeah.
Why not?
But of this program, and we are privileged, really, to be allowed the opportunity to share our message as a company, our products to the community. I know the last time I was here, and it's important because some of your folks got me. First of all, I got to say, just for the record, nah, I was right. Yes. You know,
I'm glad to see you're behaving yourself, Mike.
But no, well, the thing is that everybody, like, they threw rocks at me, dude, for saying what I said about Humane as rawly as I said it. The problem is that I'm tired of the crap that we get served, and we're supposed to eat a poop sandwich and like it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not that guy. I'm too old to change. You know, and thank God. You know, I don't want to do that. But at the same time, I apologize to the listeners if anyone was offended. You know, there is. I don't just use profanity as a colorful thing. I believe sometimes as blind folks, when you can't see my face and my voice doesn't punctuate it enough, sometimes a good bomb of one kind or another does get the message across, but that offends people. And if I've offended anyone, I sincerely apologize, hands on heart.
But look, I appreciate you saying that, but I appreciate you coming on here and being honest. And that's that's one of the core values of this program, is that, you know, we want to hear all views. We want to hear all sides. There are people we will disagree with. There are many people who, you know, we will disagree with on many various points, but that's okay. You know, actually, this is the thing we need more of. We need more debate, more discussion.
Passionate debate.
Oh, no, that's what I love about you guys. Yeah. No, I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm apologizing for what I've said. Mm-hmm. And you know, when I step in it, I'm the first. Look, own your stuff. That's the rated G version of my life saying.
Well done.
You know, and don't be a dork. That's my rated G version of my saying for life.
But
you know,
but here's the thing, Mike. I know that, you know, you've just published an article which you know, we're going to link to, and people can go off and read if they haven't already. But you published an article which kind of goes to the core, I think, of you and what you're about, which is blind people working for blind people, helping blind people, but also, essentially blind people doing it for ourselves to some degree. The message of, we're under attack as disabled people. There's no denial of that. And it's, I know people are going to think we're going to talk purely from the US perspective. We can absolutely talk from that point of view. But it's fair to say, I sit here in the UK with Shaun, and, I feel disabled people are under attack as well from our government. It's not
But
just about
I said it
Trump,
in the article.
right?
I said it in the article. Right now, we're the ones that are kind of taking the world stage, not because of DEIA, which A should have never been put at the end of that. Thank you, Joe Biden. Let's call it for what it is. DEI is super important. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. You should have the right to love whoever you want in the way you want them to. And if you want to be respected, people should be respected by being called the way that they want to be called. I believe that in certain respects, we've taken that a step too far. But, hey, if somebody, how many of us complain when somebody's overly kind? So when someone's overly respectful, it is what it is. But at the same time, and I'll listen, I'll go and argue for your marginalized community for sure. But let's put it in perspective. Imagine that you went, that you held a rally at your, favorite sports venue because they just created the opportunity for gender neutral toilet facilities, right? And everybody's celebrating. You've got all types of, LGBTQ, A, B, C, D, E, everybody, LGBTQ plus. I'm smiling, because I love our LGBTQ plus friends and family, of which I have a number of members of my family. And to me, imagine if I went up there or the representative went up there talking, hey, we got this done. And by the way, I wanted you to know that there's no ramps for people in wheelchairs, and your programs, when you have games or concerts here, they're not in accessible formats. Can I get an amen? Everybody's going to be like, what? What does that have to do with this? Because DEI and accessibility, DEI is a social stigma problem. It's a social disability. In other words, people don't understand other people because they don't bother, because they're ignorant. And yes, as a community, we deal with that too. But also accessibility, it's a law, people. There are regulations on the books. People with disabilities have literally crawled up the stairs of Congress and these here United States of America so that we have the right to say, we have a right to say. And the Americans with Disabilities Act, the European Accessibility Act, the Canadian, I forget what our Canadian friends call it, all of that, it's being trampled upon. And at very maximum, it's being trampled on. At minimum, it's being given lip service that is not being adhered to. This thing that just happened with the Braille program, with the RNIB, terrible. I understand a lot of people don't use it. So you cancel it? Really?
Yeah. Well, 500 people were using it, which is not an insignificant number of people.
Yeah, well, I mean, in comparison to how many blind people there are in the UK, probably not. They're like, nobody needs those.
Except that people actually did need it.
Yeah, it's the same argument about not having ramps in place. Well, how many people actually need the ramps, or how many people need Braille?
Exactly. How many people come in here with wheelchairs, or use wheelchairs?
That's what we've been hearing for decades anyway.
Yeah. And it is not okay to ask me if I have a sighted person that can help. Hell no, I don't. Mm-hmm. I do, but I don't. I don't feel like burdening. My wife has enough crap on her plate. My friends have enough crap on their plate. My employees have enough crap on their plate without having to do something for me because of your refusal to adhere or to follow the law. So let's for the record, DEI, fine. DEIA, never. DEIA. Don't roll me up with that group. Not because we don't love them, not because we don't support them, but you know what? Dogs and cats have 4 legs, but put them together and see what happens. Some of them get along, some of them don't. Some of them say, I got nothing to do with you. I'm after bones and you're after tuna fish.
It's an interesting take. What do you think about the what do you think the problem here is? Do you think that we are under attack by things being taken away from us, or do you think that it's the lack of enforcement? Like if these legislation already exists in some accessibility, but nothing is ever done about it, or nobody cares.
So I'm an old guy. I'm 57. Older than some, younger than others. Blessed be those that are older than me. And to me, I've been around the block a little bit, and I watched the screen reader evolve from what JAWS and VERT and Vocalize used to be back in the DOS days, to what they became in Windows, to now where we have a screen reader free on every platform available, right? But before that, we were paying $800, $900, up to $1,200 for a screen reader for a computer that could run you $300-$400. There was a time where this community took pride in doing it for itself. And now what we've become is a bunch of bitchy, whiny, blind people that stomp our foot and say, you don't give me accessible documents. Okay, I get it. They should. But you know what? Instead of doing that, let's work together and come up with a solution, because the same technology they can use, we can use. And that's what we've done. That's what Matt and I did. We wanted to make our world better, and we all benefit. Jonathan told a story. Jonathan Mosen told the story about the little hen. And I forget exactly the premise of it, but everybody gets to eat because of the bread. And that's kind of the situation here. We want these organizations, governmental and otherwise, to follow the rules. Here in the United States, we bet the farm on it this year. We released a website called title2.info. That's title2.info. Title 2 says, the Department of Justice last year said that all governmental organizations, local, state, and federal, that serve more than 50,000 people need to have their software, websites, and documentation all accessible by June of 2026. Any organization, governmental, local, state, or federal, that serves less than 50,000 people has to have their information, their websites, and their software accessible by June of 2027. Do you really think that our current Department of Justice is going to enforce that? Hell to the no. Can I get an amen?
You are right. Absolutely.
So what are we to do? Are we to sit here and continue to bitch and complain and whine and say, oh my God, they're not giving me? No. Accessibility guidelines are great. And we have a product, and Stephen, you've used it. And look, we're a sponsor of this podcast, but don't you dare ever not hold me accountable.
Oh, don't worry about that.
And Shaun. No, I know. I mean, right. all kidding aside, I know we.
No, I'm 100% serious about that.
You guys are semi serious, tongue in cheek. I get it, but stick aside. Don't you ever not hold me accountable for what I say.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Because I'm a member of this community, and I live here. I've raised kids here. I've cried here. I've laughed here. I know what it is. And I refuse to bow to people whose ignorance and just not giving a flip about us as a community. I'm sick and tired of it affecting my life. So I got up and said, you know what? I'm going to do something about it. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And the anger isn't what's fueled the passion. It's the community. It's putting out products that make a difference. It's putting out products that are reasonably priced, that are easy to understand, that you don't have to be a tech nerd to get it. So try Scribe for Documents. Within seconds, you can have your accessible document. Is it WCAG compliant? I don't know. I think so. We say so. We think so. We try. But by the way, I want to remind you that WCAG compliance is as compliant as religion is to the Bible. The Bible's a great book for those who listen to it or read it or whatever. But people, it's a freaking standard.
Yeah.
Okay. And so is WCAG. And you, the same way you can interpret that Bible any way that your religion sees fit and wants to twist it and turn it, the same way they do with WCAG. At the end of the day, I don't give a darn about the way that that document is formatted, as long as I can read it and it's cohesive. You know, if you need a real human remediated document, there's a little button at the bottom of the page that says, buy human remediation.
Yeah.
You know, but you don't need that. 9 out of 10 times, you don't need that. You know, you might need it for certain things. And for that reason, and by the way, we're not just throwing up our hands and saying, hey, we're not going to do that. But let me tell you, imagine Scribe for Documents, and Stephen, you've used this. Imagine Scribe for Documents sitting on a university's system where any student can just upload any document and within seconds get it back in an accessible format to get the information. If they need a really, really precise, you know, I mean, it's not going to go so horrible that it's going to, you know, do things, you know, say things that aren't real or whatever. It might put a paragraph out of order. It might give you an H2 when it should have been an H1 or an H3, you know, those types of things. But it certainly is going to give you the information now. And if you really need it, there's a button at the bottom of the screen that you can send it to your office, your disability office, you know, in your university or whatever. It's being done in Italy right now.
Really?
And you know, it could be done otherwise. I'm sorry, I've of course taken over, and I apologize.
No. Listen, I love it. And I think, you know, it's so interesting to me because a lot of what you're saying ties into what I've been saying, I think, quite a lot here on the show. And again, I bring up this point about the social model of disability, which I hear a lot about, which is essentially that, you know, we are not disabled. We are disabled by society. And I push back on that, Mike, because for me, you know, I think that there's an element of truth to that. I mean, the ramp is a great example of it. You know, it's for someone who is in a wheelchair, who cannot get into a restaurant. It's not their fault they can't get into the restaurant. It's that the restaurant hasn't considered accessibility in any form.
Sure.
And this, of course, could be useful to lots of different people, elderly people who struggle or walk with a cane. You know, it could be useful for anybody. It could be useful for someone, exactly, a woman with a stroller, a man with a stroller. That's the point, right? It goes beyond the wheelchair symbol or the disability. And, you know, I think the problem is there's so much boxing off going on. And of course, identity politics is part to play with this, right? What's your identity? How does it tie into all of this? And like you say, you go along to an event that might be to host one particular identity, and you find that your identity is not represented there. And to me, I just feel like we need to break all this down. And part of that is to, be more, and I've said this a lot, be more responsible in our own lives for what we do. You know, if you keep getting inaccessible materials through the post, and what I mean by that is perhaps a letter that's come in that you can't read, it's not really good enough to just continually whine and moan about not getting inaccessible or keep getting inaccessible letters. What are you doing about it? What are you doing to read those accessible letters? Now, you know, I know, for example, individuals who will spend their life on LinkedIn or Facebook whining and moaning about this. And these are people who are using smartphones, they're using computers, they're not people who, you know, can't access smart technology. They're using it every day. But what they're doing is they're sitting on those devices, not finding ways to read the accessible or read the letter more accessibly for themselves. They're sitting moaning about the fact they've got an inaccessible letter that they can't read, that they need to hand off to a sighted person. And to me, that's just not good enough. Be responsible.
Well, there's also the fact that they bought that phone. So
Yeah.
why are you going to buy my product?
Yeah.
Why? Because I'm blind? Because you feel entitled? I mean, what is it? And if you're not going to buy my product, use AI. Use something. There's so many solutions for us to be able to read content these days that, the zealots that have looked at well, sometimes it doesn't do this. Well, no, you're right. Sometimes it doesn't. But I'd rather have 80 or 90% of something than 100% of nothing.
So, here's my situation, right? My situation was I had 30 PDF documents that needed to be converted into some format so that I could read. And I was a little bit nervous because I had gone through this PDF situation before. We'd met someone who had sent me these documents and said to me, I'm going to send you all these documents. Will you be able to read them? And I said, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But send me them anyway. And the result was I went on to Mastodon and I said, okay, I've got all these documents. I have no idea what to do with them. How do I make them accessible? And ideally quickly, because I'm thinking 30 documents, right? It's not just like one, which you can maybe get by with or deal with and spend some time on. When there's 30 of them and they're multiple pages per document, you're thinking, how am I going to do this? And everyone came back to me pretty much and said either DocuScan or Scribe. And I was like, okay, let me go try it.
Both of them are ours.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone pointed to you. And I said, okay, I'm going to go try it. I went and I bought a pack of like 200 pages or whatever it was in the pack deal that I bought. And I converted the documents. Now, you're absolutely right. Not all of them were perfect. But you know what? They're a damn sight closer to perfect than I had, which was not perfect at all. I had nothing. So now I have 30 accessible documents. And now I've actually sent those audio files to the person who gave the files to me to say, look, if you ever meet another blind person who needs access to these documents, here, use this. Give this to someone. Because this is useful to them too. And it just empowers you, We're not victims. We're not all victims.
No, and the thing is that, what people don't seem to understand or think that somebody else is going to do it, right? Your little drop helps. I mean, I hate to sound like a telethon, but every little bit helps. And the reality is, for $250 for a year, you get 10,000 pages. Now, the pages you bought, Stephen, they don't expire. The 10,000 pages do. You can use up to 10,000 pages. Please don't start a business because we'll catch you and we will trounce you.
Oh, damn. I was thinking of doing that as well. Yeah. I thought that great sideline.
But the reality is, with 10,000 pages available, you can help your friends and family that are visually impaired that can't afford this. And you can keep our company going. We're blind people. Neither Matt nor I are millionaires. Neither one of us. Both of us have side hustles besides what we do at Pneuma. And we do a hell of a lot. My son David just joined us at Pneuma, and he's doing some things that you'll be seeing later on this year because David is an AI genius. Oh. And also we just got what we call our SOC 2 Type 2, which is a security thing that'll help us get more government contracts. But we did that because we thought the government was going to be interested. Surprise!
Yeah, you got interesting, not interested. Yeah.
So but the reality is that if it's not, we can do it for ourselves, but we can't do it alone. And I get it, people. I get it. When all you do is beat your head against the wall, you get a headache. But every once in a while, there's that aha moment where you break through. There's always that opportunity to say, you know what? It's not perfect, but it's mine. It's ours. And no one can take it away. The only reason anyone's going to take away Scribe for documents or RIM or Scribe for meetings or DocuScan Plus or Cero or any of the products that we make at Pneuma is if you don't pay for them. That's the only reason someone's going to take them away.
if I can just poke my head out from the fire of you two ranting and
I'm sorry, dude.
No,
we
no,
were
I love
whinging,
you,
whining,
Shaun.
and moaning, were we?
I
whinging
love you,
and
Shaun.
moaning.
You are the sugar in our coffee, bro. You really are, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I love you, man. You're awesome.
No, there's just so many different, aspects we could take that down. You know, we've talked about this quite recently on the payment, you know, for developers and things like that. We've talked about that, Stephen, when, you know, talking about subscriptions and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to concentrate on the products here, because a listener did get in touch and say also, did you know they do an email client? It's like, no, you actually do so much stuff that it's going to sound bad, but I didn't know you did. So I do want to sort of dive into your product line a bit, actually.
Okay. So the before I dive into the products, you need to know a little bit of history, and very short. I started like Calvo does anything short.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I saw that, bro. I saw that.
The show is an hour long, just letting you know.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm in good company there, Mr. Stephen.
Well, yeah, okay, fair enough. I'll get you. Okay,
You know,
I'll get you.
so Shaun can talk me off the ledge too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
It's
just
done
say,
now.
"Shut up, Calvo," when you're ready. But I love you. But you guys are British. You're
Yeah, British is fine.
British. Okay,
let's just
yeah.
stick with that.
Which means you're polite. You won't tell me to shut up. But Stephen is Scottish, so he's a little bit more edgy.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
But anyway, I digress. But when I started Serotek in 2001, and my business partner for Serotek, may he rest in peace, is no longer with us, and we had to shut Serotek down in 2017. And Matt and I didn't know what we were going to do at that point. Matt went to go work for Microsoft, and we kept Cero going, which Cero is a community product. A lot of the people that use Cero, we haven't marketed it because, quite frankly, we haven't written a lick of code for it for years. But people are still using it, and it is available on literally every platform. Name a platform, any platform.
Chrome.
It's right there.
Chrome.
I don't
You
like
know.
to name a platform.
Chromium.
There you go.
How about Blind Shell Classic?
Yeah, Blind Shell
Have you-
Classic is on there.
It is on Blind Shell Classic.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
And it's not on the two.
Nokia Talks. Does it work with
Symbian.
Nokia and
It
Symbian?
used to be.
Oh,
Man,
okay. Well,
Torsten was a good friend. May he rest in peace. From Talks. But again, Cero is a community. We've got tons and tons of described video content up there, audio only. You know, and it's meant for personal consumption. You know, by blind people or people with print disabilities. And we do have a verification process that if we suspect for a minute that you're not visually impaired, we're going to put you through.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? How do you verify? Explain
Because blind people have a way of letting somebody know, whether it be through a library service, through the NLS service here, through an affiliation with an organization, something. We're not going to Gestapo you. We'll just take you off the platform if we think you're abusing it.
Okay.
But
bear in mind,
if
the blind thing, it's a bit like facial recognition, but audio recognition, right? As soon as you hear a name, you go, I've never had that name before. Is that person blind?
You don't sound like a blind person, Steve.
Yeah, are you sure you're blind?
You know how many blind people called and but you don't understand. I'm blind. Oh, so am I. but I mean, the blind card does not work here. But I get it. Use the blind card when you can. But no, I mean, as long as you keep your dignity while doing it, and be real.
Well,
But so Cero is a great product. It's available on Android, iOS, Windows, Mac, all of that. DocuScan Plus is our competitor, I guess. The reason we did products at Serotek was to provide good products at a good price. And DocuScan Plus is $399 and $299. I'm sorry. And it's available for Windows and for Mac. And it is, your typical competitor, if you will, to OpenBook or Kurzweil Reader or any of that kind of stuff. And those are the products that are left over from Serotek. while I was at Serotek, Matt Campbell, who was our CTO at the time, who's been my partner in crime in developing software for the last 25 years. Amazing.
Wow.
We knew each other when we were young and naive, and now we're old and naive. He developed a product called Remote Incident Manager, RIM. And RIM came out in 2007 or so. And we experienced some, but it was very high priced because it took a lot of work and it was kind of kludgy by today's standards. And when we redid Pneuma because of Scribe, because we had done something called JIT access. It was called JIT access, and it's just-in-time accessibility. It's kind of a standard we live by, and you'll see just-in-time accessibility in Scribe for documents, which means, accessibility now, and I need it now, just in time. Thank God. And we did Scribe, and COVID hit. We did Scribe for meetings and Scribe for education because we needed to make sure that blind kids had access to information, but we still needed to keep the damn lights on. So Matt and I said, why don't we bring RIM back? And we did. Version 3. RIM has been out of the ballpark. I mean, just hundreds of thousands of connections, tens of thousands of users, not to sound like a certain president, but many, many people really enjoy RIM and talk about RIM. It's the most amazing thing in history. No one's ever done anything like it.
I've got to say, look, joking aside, I love it. I do, and I know people will say, "Yeah, well, he's only saying that because he's sponsor." Trust me, I've been paying for it long before.
Don't ever do that, dude. Don't ever do that.
Not going to be doing. I'm not that guy.
We were using
I promise
it before.
You.
Thank you.
I use it and I pay for it. I don't get it for free. I pay for it every month. And I love it because it's the first time I've been able to use machines remotely and actually be functional with those machines and using a screen reader as well. And I know that it's kind of two parts, isn't it? It's about being able for individuals like me to be able to connect to a machine remotely and do that if I want. But really, it's for people who work in call centers. It enables people to get a job in a call center to be able to actually use a system that requires you to take control of another person's computer. And, be able to use a screen reader on a machine which doesn't even have a screen reader active. I mean, it's the key. It's incredible.
Yeah. Our friends at Once in Spain, great customers. Our friends at IRA, great customers as well. They use it to provide support for blind people. Every blind person in Spain uses RIM. Every blind person with it. They have at least 15,000 or so connections in a year, 15,000 sessions in a year. I mean, if your organization works with visually impaired people, or not, but if it does especially, the biggest challenge that we've had, and this is why we went into the Title II stuff this year, to push Scribe for documents, because unfortunately to sell RIM, it's got to be either asked for by a blind person in an organization that either serves the blind or doesn't. But we can't just go knocking on doors. Hey, do you hire blind people? Do you hire blind people? Do blind people do technical support? It's a fool's errand. So we definitely, when we saw what Title II was doing, we said, man, we need to jump on this train. And we put our pennies into developing Scribe. And now that Title II, we're still continuing down that road, and we're hoping that organizations don't take the example of our federal government here in the United States, which has done an egregious thing to people with disabilities under the guise of, shrinking government.
Yeah, efficiency.
It's horrible and it's shameful, and I'm ashamed to be an American in that respect. I'm ashamed of what my government's done because it has set back. One of the side effects that isn't talked about very much about that is because of our current administration's despising of marginalized communities and DEI and all that DEI means. What's happened to us because of the A at the end of DEI here, 504 funding for students, because, when students have certain disabilities, gender dysphoria being one of them, schools have used 504 money to build restrooms or whatever, gender neutral bathrooms for these kids. And so that they're not bullied and all that stuff. And I understand that. But now our current administration is saying, well, you did that for those kids, so we're not going to give you money for your blind kids either, or your kids with autism, or your kids that are in wheelchairs. You see, two different issues.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm disgusted by it. But my point is that we've had to pivot. I hate that word. Had to pivot, using a Gen Z word, Gen Z, I'm looking at you. We've pivoted into saying, hey, community, we need you to help us with Scribe and RIM and start spreading the word, because we're not going anywhere. They're going to have to pull me out of this chair kicking and screaming. Okay, but it would make life a hell of a lot easier if you all would help us spread the word of accessibility. If you've got an iPhone 15, iPhone 16, even an iPhone 14, you've got enough to pay for something that we sell. And I assure you that something we sell is going to change your life. I don't know what, because I don't know you, but I know us as a community. Man, I should go into politics, dude.
You should.
Dude, yeah.
but
Not sure
idea.
which type of politics, but some sort. It's
Right?
It's interesting what you say there. That the value is there, but actually sometimes people don't know, the difference that the right software can make. That's
Everything has a free trial.
Well, that's the thing. I totally understand your passion there, but I think we should just go into what RIM actually does in case anyone is totally new to it.
So the quickest form, and I don't really care, because the product I'm going to compare it to is totally inaccessible. It is basically Accessible TeamViewer, plus on steroids.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
So you can connect to someone else's computer and control it. But the big thing with RIM is that you will hear everything, through what screen reader does it actually use? Is it NVDA?
It uses parts of NVDA under the hood,
Right.
because NVDA is open source. So
Yes.
we can use, and let me tell you, God bless NVDA. We love those guys.
Yeah.
We did a product called System Access, and we would have never done it. We did it. It was out before NVDA came out, because JAWS. I'm a JAWS user. I love JAWS, and Ted Henter is a friend. But that product was expensive as hell, and we set out when we did System Access back at Serotek to sell or provide. And that's why we did a product called System Access to Go back then, which was you walk up to any computer, type in sa2go.com, and the browser would open, and you would be able to load temporarily a screen reader onto any computer ever.
Wow.
And it was
I
cool.
remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very cool. And but we would have never done any of that if NVDA had been around. So Mick and Jamie, they're my heroes, man. I love those guys, and I think that what they're doing is a great thing. And NVDA is kind of under the hood, but it works with all screen readers. It works with on the target side, on the person you're controlling. It works with Windows Narrator. It works with JAWS. It works with NVDA, of course. It works with Dolphin, Nova, with Dolphin Supernova. So Dolphin Access. It works with Guide. So it works with all of that stuff as far as for being able to fix stuff. And because we're not in that stack, people say, well, I got JAWS, so I got Tandem. No, problem is if your JAWS falls over, guess what? So does your Tandem.
Mm-hmm.
Which Tandem,
we found that, Stephen, didn't we?
We had a situation
yes.
just a couple of weeks ago. We were helping a friend out, and we were using JAWS Tandem because we thought it was easier for him because he didn't have room set up on the computer. And we said, okay, we'll just use Tandem. And we had to restart JAWS on his side. And of course, what did that mean? We lost everything. And so in order to fix the problem, we had to get them to install RIM. And off we went. And it was a glorious experience, as it always is. And I've got to say as well, last week I did my first IRA call using RIM. You know, because I was told you via a message at 3:48 in the morning at one point that I was having some issues, Mike, and I couldn't get RIM.
Isn't he, Mike?
I couldn't get RIM installed.
To me all the time.
It turned out it was a DNS error on the server end of the ISP. I don't know, but anyway, they sorted it and it was fine. Basically, I couldn't access anything. I couldn't download Windows updates. They fixed it. Yeah, I got it all sorted.
Oh, they fixed it, did they?
Yeah, they helped to fix it. I know you helped me to get it.
Thank you.
You helped me temporarily sort it. Okay.
Thank you.
Fine.
Carry on.
The ISP fixed it properly. Anyway, the point is it's fixed now. So off I went and I got RIM installed, and I was having an issue with my printer, HP, gotta love it. Had an issue trying to install the software, and I got on with IRA, on the IRA desktop app through the website, and they were able to take control. I used the keyword that Shaun and I use all the time. You'll know what I'm talking about, Shaun. And, instantly typed in the word, hit enter. Boom, that's it. They had control. And I was expecting the usual, 8,000 pop-ups and is this going to work for you? And, give all this and give all this. Nothing. Just boom, straight through, no hassle. They had access and the issue was fixed in 2 minutes, which when you're paying for IRA minutes is really important, right? Because you want to get the value out of those minutes. You don't want to be wasting time saying, okay, hang on a minute, let me try and navigate around to find this TeamViewer number if I can find it at all. Quick Assist, which works some of the time, but not all the time. And then there's a new version, which I don't have. And it's just ridiculous.
Audio.
Yeah, no audio. I mean,
so it doesn't matter anyway, because we can't use it. Right?
Yeah.
By the way, when you use IRA, please do fill out the survey at the end. We put that up there just to make sure that all is going well.
Yeah.
With that, IRA does not insist on that. IRA doesn't even look at those. We look at them because we want to know that everything went well with these things. Because again, it's for us, by us.
But I think that's one area. I mean, IRA I think is a great service as we know, but I think this is one aspect that more people could really benefit from knowing about, because that desktop connection, how many times do you get stuck on something? Screen reader just fails on you. Another screen reader just can't pick up what you're trying to do. It can't find the button. And you've no one around. I mean, it's funny. I hear this phrase a lot, have you got sighted help? And I laugh because I don't. My wife is blind. I'm blind. So there's no one around here to help unless I pull a neighbor in. And I'm not doing that. I don't need to do that. There are services that can help me. And whether if my glasses can't tell me, or my Seeing AI app can't tell me, or it's telling me something but it's not making it clear, or if I'm just on button, which is often the case, I will do what I can. But sometimes you just need someone to be able to say, can you just look at this and see if this makes sense, or tell me where I am here? And I'm in control of that. I'm making that decision to get that help and pay for that help, yes, but I'm able to get that help. But it's free
too. I mean, for the
first 5 minutes call. Yeah, exactly. For the odd call,
the first 30. Yeah, but with them, it's for the first 5 minutes. With RIM, it's 30 minutes a day.
That's right.
Free.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely try it out.
Yeah, please. And by the way, even if you don't use RIM, trust me when I tell you it costs you nothing to download it, put it on your desktop. Don't even register. We don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But, the reality is that if your computer stops talking, all you need to do is tell someone, hey, go install getrim.app on your computer. All you need to do is, if you know your computer's on and your device can tell you, your iOS device or your Android device can tell you, or whatever, all you do is do Windows, Shift, Backspace, type in a word that you agree with that person on, hit enter, and they will immediately be on your machine. That's it. And even if it's not talking, and there's no reason for it not to talk unless narrator's not working, which would, if narrator's not talking, you got real problems.
You got trouble.
So, I mean, but use the technology, people. It's here. Let's work together. Let's build this community. What you guys are doing is so vitally important. I love Jonathan. Jonathan's been a great friend for years and an advocate of everything we've done, and just a great mentor for me as an example of what a blind person can do when they do things the right way, as opposed to like a bull in a china closet sometimes. Stephen, I'm looking at you. Hey, bro, I love you, bro. I mean, we're like I told you before, we're brothers from another mother, dude.
We absolutely are.
But I love our community, and yes, my reasons for doing what I do are a little selfish, and that is being truthful. I want to make my world better. But that's where my selfishness ends. I want to share it with you, but I want you to pay me for it.
Yeah, well, of course. Look, I mean, this doesn't work any other way. I've said this about developers. I mean, everyone has to eat, right?
Yes.
And, we have to live. And the only way we can do that is through, ideally a job. Now, we can't all have a job. And certainly there are many blind people out there who don't have jobs. But the reason for that is because of the lack of expectation, the low expectations that exist around blindness out there by people. People who just cannot even imagine the concept of a blind person putting on their own T-shirt in the morning. I go back to the point about when I left hospital.
You do that all by yourself?
I did, all by myself. I mean, didn't put it on the right way around or indeed inside
front,
out.
Inside out.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow.
But, I did put it on by myself at least. At least I think it's a T-shirt.
You look marvelous.
You look pair of shorts, I don't know. But, I remember leaving that hospital that day and the nurse saying to me, do you have stairs at home? And I said, yes. And she said, how will you cope with them? And I said, the same way I coped with them for the last 11 years when I lived in this house and every house I lived in previous. So I just, again, sometimes
how do you cope with your affliction, Stephen?
You just sometimes think, where does this come from with people, right? Where does the logic, like reasonable people, right? I mean, these are not idiots. They're not all idiots. They seem to be, they just lose logic completely.
Forgive them, for they know not what they do or say. And I mean, honestly, I've spent the time, I think all of us as blind people go through the angry stage. And rightfully so. Oh, yeah. Something's been taken from us, whether we're blind from birth or not. An opportunity to enjoy the world as everyone does has been taken from us, and it is constantly being thrown in our face how we will never, ever meet up to anybody's standard. So being a pissed off blind person at some point in your life is totally legitimate. And if you are, hey, welcome to the club. But you know what? It ends.
Yeah.
It ends. You finally get to deal with it as best you can. Being blind, and I'm going to go off my rated G, being blind is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But you know what? But it's a manageable pain in the ass. And it's something that, we all can share experiences and all of that. So to me, I mean, I celebrate our community, and we need to understand that we are a community, and every little bit of advocacy, every little bit. And I'm not telling anybody, you don't need, I mean, we got lives to live, but separate the ignorant from the stupid. There's no legal way to deal with the stupid, but there is a legal and legitimate way to deal with the ignorance. And that is, communicate, demonstrate, advocate. You can. I know you can. I believe in you.
Wow. Okay.
Here's a question for you.
Sure.
So I know you've kind of wound up a lot of the work on email and on the Cero side. Is that forever though? Because I've got to be honest, there's a lot of us out here worried about the future of where things are going when it comes to things like Microsoft Outlook and even the options that exist currently. I mean, okay, we're fairly well served on the Mac and on the iPhone and on Android perhaps, but on the Windows side, Thunderbird's flaky at times. Outlook's okay if you're using Outlook, if you can use Outlook. The web view, people are starting to get used to, I guess, but it's not ideal. Would you ever think about reinvesting time in it?
I never say never, but we really haven't, Stephen, because most of the users of Cero are very either, not real experienced computer users or very old, elderly seniors that have been using Cero since it was FreedomBox back in 2001. And, and we make sure that it stays because that's the only lifeline that a lot of these people have. But there really is not enough due to the size of our market, due to B, the refusal that we have as a company to overcharge, not because of that we want to make more money, but because of the size of the market. There's so many alternatives out there. We just don't see any growth in Cero. People don't use it. There's so many other alternatives that, yeah, I agree with you. But in those particular cases, we need to advocate that those products become, I think that that become more accessible. I think that iOS, Android, Google, Microsoft, Apple, they have a responsibility. If they became an AT company by including AT in their technology, then they need to be held accountable for it, because your money is as green, unless if it's not green, it's whatever, the same color as everybody else's. And, and it's just as valuable as everybody else's. And damn it, you have a voice, and use that voice, but I don't ever want to say never, but point taken.
Yes, definitely. I'd be interested in I want the Outlook Express days back. I want a nice, simple email.
I love Outlook Express.
Those were the days.
And calendar. Well, in fairness, in calendar as well. I found the most accessible calendar I've got, believe it or not, is on my watch. My Apple Watch calendar is brilliant because it just lists everything out, no hassle. I can easily find what I'm looking for. And currently I'm using Microsoft Outlook with Lisi, and I've upgraded to version 10, which is allowing.
Lisi's awesome.
It is.
I love it.
I love
Brian's
Lisi.
A beast.
And the fact that I can easily get everything in one place, things I've been learning about, like when you go into a calendar invite and you can hit Alt and M, and that'll take you straight to a meeting. If you're if there's a meeting in the calendar, insert tab when you're in the calendar, puts everything in a nice view, virtualized for you. I love it. I love the way that they've really considered all these things. Brian's done an amazing job with it.
Yeah, he has. And,
long may that continue as well. Kind of in the same vein as you, I guess. Very similar in that sense of, blind people doing it for ourselves, which is so vital. So vital.
When you're paying for something as well, you feel like you've got the, what's the word I'm looking for? You've got the right to say, hey, what about this? Or holding the developer, to account for things.
Oh, let me address that for a second, because our community is infamous,
I know
for sitting there at meetings and telling me, I would buy your product, and if it only did. Well, if you wanted to only do that, that's the only thing you wanted to do? No. But if it only did that, then I'd buy it. Well, then if you're not going to buy it, then why would I ever do what you want me to do? Tell you what, invest in the product, write us an email, and we'll take you seriously. Otherwise, you're feeding me a line.
Yeah.
I have got a question.
Sure.
Scribe and the DocuScan apps there. Well, what's the difference there? Because they're both scanning, right?
Right, but one is web-based. One is web-based. Scribe for Documents is a web-based solution that is for digital documents. The one thing you can't do with Scribe for Documents that you can do with DocuScan Plus is use a flatbed scanner. Now, exclusive news, breaking news.
Oh, hang on.
Wait,
Breaking news.
We will be releasing a desktop version of Scribe for Documents in the near future.
Yay!
Don't know how near. Don't know how near. I love that's in stereo too. Wow.
It is.
Don't ask me how.
Hang on. Doesn't that so what that brings the two closer together even more, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah, we're definitely moving. And so if you buy DocuScan Plus, for example, right now, and we do it in the next year, and we're trying to work on the resources to get it together. It doesn't take a hell of a lot to put it together. It takes some, but not what you'd think, because it's just kind of taking two great tastes that taste great together and putting them together in one package. So it's not going to be crazy, but if you buy it, we'll just upgrade you for free. But the biggest challenge we're having right now is DocuScan Plus's scanning engine is old. So one of the things that we have to deal with the consumers that use DocuScan Plus is that if they're doing HIPAA compliance or things like that with medical documents, they can't hit the internet. So we are working on an AI solution, Mr. Calvo. I'm looking at you, the younger Calvo,
Junior.
to
Yes.
do an AI scanning for the desktop. You see what I'm saying? That's a scanning solution for the desktop. So he did a demo yesterday for a customer, and I got to tell you, I was sitting there with tears in my eyes watching this kid that just used to lay on the floor as I would talk to people doing Serotek stuff. And this kid, I got to brag. He got a free ride to Johns Hopkins, graduated at the top of his class, and I'm honored that he works with me.
Oh,
wow.
And he has a heart for our community. He could be making, we pay him pretty good, but he could be making 4 or 5 times that anywhere else. And he chose to work with us, and I'm humbled, I'm honored, I'm blessed by that. So just had to say that.
Well, listen, Mike, I love having you on. Come back anytime. And of course, you're now a fully, literally paid up member of the Double Tap family. We didn't think we'd ever say that, but there you go. And you're the first as well. And I really appreciate it. We all do here at Double Tap. And thank you for your time. But also, come back. Let's chew the fat more. We're
Cool.
so pleased to hear the news about DocuScan and Scribe having a beautiful marriage together. It sounds beautiful.
It does.
Invite us to the ceremony. I will buy a hat. Thank you, Mike.
Well, all right. Love you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, there's no room to really follow that, but I will say thank you for listening, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Bye, Shaun.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, I need to sit down.